Hello, hi. It's good to be back again. This is going to be a kind of prologue introduction to the work I'm doing on the historicity specifically of Jesus Christ. We've talked about Nazareth as a kind of a kind of pre-introduction, and I wanted to do that because every single time you're trying to look for Jesus in the first century, you run against problems. You come up against brick walls, often difficulties even establishing anything or anyone pertaining to the historical Jesus. And we're going to really try and flesh this out in the coming chapters and talk about Tacitus, Suetonius, Josephus as well, and look at the claims that have often been made about Jesus' historicity and explain, I think, with very good evidence now, why these are not good examples of historicity at all. And the scholarship really is in now. And over the last 25, 30 years, it's come so far that I think we can begin to now truly make the claim that Jesus didn't exist in the historical record, specifically not in the way that the Bible teaches that he did. There are Jesuses in the historical record, and some of them are really interesting, actually. And they do have some relationship to Jesus of Nazareth, the Jesus in the Bible. I think I might just call him Jesus of Nazareth from now on. But the biblical Jesus is impossible to find, basically in the first century, if you discount the Josephine mentions, and I think we can now do that. So I'm just going to introduce what we're going to be doing in the next few chapters. I hope you enjoy this. It's not going to be a long one today, but yes, buckle in. I hope you have a good time going through this. Jesus's historicity is a serious, technical, and delicate item of research. There has been so much scholarship on the issue, extensive analysis, historical, textual, typological, comparative, and all to try and prove this cornerstone of Western history, the most talked about person in Western lands for the last 2,000 years. The most beautiful architecture, one of the prime motivators for social change and one of the biggest causes for upheaval, the very fiber of countless lives, guided, even given strength by, but also controlled through his name. There are 5 points of central importance in the grand old "Did Jesus exist?" argument. 1. If Jesus existed, he simply had to have been a minor figure. Any and all pretense at trying to corroborate a generous mixture of fantastical mythological tales, replete in the New Testament, to the actual archaeological and literary record, serve to show a massive chasm with next to no information whatsoever. Jesus would have been a virtual non-entity in his time if we equate with history. What history tells us with this figure. 2. Using the Bible to prove the Bible is a crass and ill-conceived exercise in circular reasoning. This is because the information we find in Acts, the 4 Gospels, and the epistles is contradictory, unsubstantiated, and bears all the hallmarks of being written a very long way from Judea and under the eyes of substantially Hellenized Jewish, but otherwise Greco-Roman elites. Number 3, aside from the Bible itself, the only references we have that can definitively be established to be clear references don't even come from the first century. If we now discount the Josephine reference, and we shall show why his entries are forged, all mention of Jesus outside the Bible then comes to us from the early 2nd century, with the arrival of Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, and Suetonius. 4. These references are minor, represent only fleeting commentary, and come to us after Christians and their writings had already been in existence for some time. This is crucial to understand. In whatever manner they may have presented themselves, which we will have noted by now tend to add more to a Gnostic revelatory spirit Jesus than a flesh and blood literal Jesus of Nazareth. Number 5, most intrinsic to this argument and of prime import is the fact that absolutely no reference exists anywhere during the time the Bible says Jesus walked the earth. Jesus is variously identified as a Galilean magus, a Messianic king, a prophet, a healer, a Hellenistic sage, a rebel, rabbinical leader, an exorcist, demigod, yet nothing contemporary, even with a decent number of contemporary commentators, historians, etc., who trod the very paths and meandered on the very beaches of Galilee, cavorting in the same circles of a good deal of persons mentioned in the Bible, have left any trace of anything relating to this man. This is hard to square given the fact that within 200 years, many literalist Christians would have had a concerted interest and went to, we can assume, great lengths to keep and maintain records of Jesus' existence, where we would expect to find far more evidence of Jesus than we have currently. After 2,000 years of interest and excavation, we have a complete whole. To anyone not privy to the up-to-date scholarship in this field, this may all seem slightly strange. Indeed, it should be. There was much written about many far less figures in these times. Many apparent contradictions abound. Jesus wasn't stoned by the Sanhedrin, and James was. Stoning was a Jewish practice. Their use of Roman money in the Gospels, small details but interesting when building an argument. This would likely put the dating of the Gospels at the very earliest after the Jewish War. Indeed, we have already seen evidence for the use of the works of Josephus, helping to bolster the Gospel stories. This leaves decades of time with no information whatsoever and ample time to forget any valid eyewitness testimony, distort it, or indeed create it wholesale. We have a cacophony of messianic pretenders, many of whom exist in an unbroken literary chain right down to us today. The writers of varieties of Jesus mythicism explain thusly. What about all the other messianic figures we know about in this period? A surprising number of wannabe Judean messiahs from around the time of the early 1st century. John the Baptist, Apollonius of Tyana, Jonathan the Weaver, Androgenes the Shepherd, Simon of Perea, the Tahib, the Samaritan Messiah, and more, over a dozen in all. If Jesus' fame was anything near the levels depicted in the Gospels, multitudes following him, fame spreading throughout Judea to Syria, Egypt, and 10 cities of the Decapolis League, etc., his achievements were easily on a par with even the best of these. But every one of these was able to accomplish something Jesus couldn't. How did messianic figures like the Tahib, Jonathan the Weaver, and all the rest manage to leave a historical footprint, but not Jesus? David Fitzgerald, a contributor to the above book, quoted just above, gives a list in his first book in Jesus Mything in Action trilogy. Here we see even more names, contemporaries or near contemporaries of Jesus. They are listed as follows. 1, John the Baptist. And I've just left a little extra commentary there. Apollonius of Tyana. Number 2, the Egyptian. 3, number 4, Judas the Galilean. 5, Theodos the magician. 6, Androgenes the shepherd. 7, Simon of Perea. 8, the impostor. 9, the Tahib. Jonathan the Weaver is 10. Carabbas, 11. 12, Yeshua ben Hananiah, or Jesus ben Ananias. 13, Simon bar Gorea, and 14, Simon Migas. And moving a little further afield, we also find no mention from other historians, documentarians, commentators, and the like from within the Roman Empire about our most illustrious heavenly Messiah. Whilst the majority of the information we have of the above rebel leaders and messianic pretenders come from Josephus, the Jesus references we do have are left all the more suspect due to the nature of their entry type and style in Antiquities of the Jews, with one of them almost certainly being about another Jesus. This is the second entry of Jesus, which we will be going through. We shall peer with some depth through those references shortly, illustrating how insignificant and even mendacious these accounts of the gospel of Jesus actually are. First of all, though, let's build a picture in a negative sense with a void, the void we actually find when exploring the detail we do have, left by myriad contemporary commentators. Let's explore the negative evidence, therefore. Let's actually really go through the negative evidence. And this is an argument from silence, but it's a really illustrative one. We have surely all heard the term absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence, but this argument from silence is profoundly unsettling and should force many literal Christians to take a deep breath and think a little harder about this most vexing, strange, and eerie matter. And that's it. We will pick this up with part 2, hopefully out tomorrow. And we're going to begin to really flesh out the humongous problems we have with the biblical Jesus. And I just want to make it clear, there are many historians and commentators around at this time. It's true that a lot of the information we have what has been lost over time to history, but within 200 or 300 years, Christians would, as I had said, be really interested in taking as much evidence as they possibly could and saving it, had it been there. And we don't have that. We have Tacitus, obviously, mentioning all manner. Well, we have quite a few commentators from this time mentioning all manner of people, and they've been lost to history. And we have really nothing about Jesus Christ. And we're going to go through people like Philo and Justus of Tiberias as well, who was quoted into the 10th century and was right there, a contemporary of Jesus Christ, who said absolutely nothing. And Christians readily admit this. So I'm going to leave that there. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really quite motivated to be making these videos at the moment. So I hope you enjoy them. Take good care of yourselves. We'll pick this up tomorrow. Thank you very much. Goodbye.